Welcome to Season 6 of Business Mentorship, Keepin It Real. Introducing corporate leaders who've taken the leap to business owner. Introducing their great idea in our guest blog, found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest joins us from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Ryan Wimpey is the founder of Tip Top Canine, who has taken his passion for dogs and turned it into a dog training franchise. Let's find out how Ryan has built his business by franchising into 19 locations and 11 states. And you gotta love these stats. 91 trainers, over 32,000 dogs trained, and over 14,000 reviews. I'm sure you'll agree, that's pretty impressive. It's my pleasure to introduce and welcome Ryan.
Hey Trish, thanks so much for having me on. We're at 24 now. It's hard to book with you. You know, you're kind of a big deal.
Wow, 24, really?
Yeah. The four of them aren't open yet, but we have 20 open now and 4 that are opening next month.
Isn't that awesome? Well, listen, I did receive a question from our audience, so I'm going to put my glasses on to read it. So this is from Jessie on LinkedIn, and she says she wants to know if you'll share how you started franchising. You know, there's got to be the dream of every entrepreneur, right? You start with a great idea. You got one location. You think, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. But how did you even get to the idea of franchising?
So it's a big story. I'll shorten it up, right? So the first thing is to make sure you have a very linear workflow that you can hand off. And so for everything customer facing and back end, you need to basically checklist everything, have a 1 to 10 step. This is how I train the customer. This is how I train a new employee. If I take the dog in for a board and train program, let's take his 2 weeks. Let's break it into 2-day increments. What should be done every 2 days, right? So first thing you need to do is have a linear workflow. Then you need to see how fast you can give it to pretty good employees and then replicate what you're doing, right? So if you think of a franchise like McDonald's or Subway, some of the biggest ones, it's very cookie cutter. They've broken down their procedures so that they can train the lowest common denominator employee to do very good service in a short amount of time.
True. Very true. And, you know, I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs, right? We go helter-skelter all over the place. We do everything for the first, especially when you first start out, right? You're the chief cook and bottle washer. You do everything. And then you need to decide at some point, okay, if I'm going to scale, I can't do everything by myself. So I either need to hire or to go with contract employees. So what was your first foray into that? Did you actually hire someone right off the get-go, or did you partner with somebody who had a similar interest as you?
No, I worked by myself for a few years. Then I started hiring, like most people do, people you know. That's kind of like the second step, And then really we got a lot bigger whenever I hired people we don't know, right? And that's even now with our locations, you know, I coach them. At some point, you know, I had a business and sales coach, you know, 10, 12 years ago. And he's like, hey, at some point, if you want to grow, you're going to have to put down the leash. And I was obsessed with
That's a really good saying. I love that.
For a long time, I couldn't. I was just like, hey, I like it too much. I see the impact. After I got married, started
to put down the leash.
At some point, I had to put down the leash. And I think the one hardest part for entrepreneurs is letting go of some control. They know, the owner knows that he can do it better than everyone else.
Yeah.
But that's not how you build a business.
No. You know, somebody said to me, it's only a great idea until you have your first sale, right? Like you don't actually have a business until you start to sell what it is that you do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you have to make sales. I think sales is also a hard thing for a lot of owners to give up. A lot of owners stay in the sales role for too long. And it doesn't matter if you can do it 5 or 10% or 20% better than someone. If you can train 3 or 4 people that do it 85% as good as you, you're winning. It's just a leverage game.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, how do you find the people that want to franchise with you? Because you're in a very specific market niche, right? I mean, I know that there's dog lovers, there's cat lovers, you know, there's people who sort of gravitate to certain kinds of pets, but I mean, it's very specific niche that you have, and obviously a very successful system that you use. So how do you find the right franchisee?
Yeah. Well, first off, our barrier to entry is very low. So it's $48,000 and it includes 6 weeks of training and your initial gear and setup. So it's hard for someone to even pay 50 grand to learn how to be a dog trainer without marketing and phone support and
Right.
training support, etc.
Right.
So that's one side. A third of our locations are more homegrown, whether they came from my corporate location or they were clients. So back to your question, our first 6 locations, they were clients that as soon as we were like, hey, we're going to start to expand and grow, clients were like, hey, I don't like my job. I hate what I would
Yeah.
like to be an owner. Can I do that? Right. And then we also had corporate employees do the same. And
Right.
then on top of that, so we were on some radio shows, podcasts. And so our first 6 were actually corporate stores. So back to your question, we actually started with corporate stores, made sure the model was good,
Right.
worked out all the kinks for 2 years because there were kinks.
Sure.
Yeah. And then we went to franchising after we turned those corporate stores. So 5 out of those 6 corporate stores flipped into franchises. And then we started franchising.
Now you mentioned something that I think is, anybody that I talk to that has a job in today's day and age, there's very few people that love what they do, right? They're doing it to pay the mortgage, to put food on the table, send their kids to school, travel, whatever their heart desires. But it's becoming harder and harder and harder to love what you do.
Yeah.
So, I think we learn the skills in corporate and then we say, just like you mentioned, I'm not sure that I'm really happy doing this anymore. Maybe it's time for me to find something else.
Yeah.
Is that what happened to you too, before you actually got this whole idea about starting a business that was dog training?
Yeah, kind of. I worked for the family business. It was a construction supply business. I did mostly more purchasing. So I was in a cubicle more, and I was almost hoping that the warehouse guy called in.
Yeah, so you could go out.
Then I worked part-time dog training evenings, weekends. And then I actually worked for someone else and they moved. And then I'm like, well,
Uh-oh.
this is the best thing ever that I have going for me. Like, what am I going to do? So I took that leap and started my own business. It was obviously way harder than, way harder than I thought, 16 years ago.
Yeah. The enthusiasm keeps you going, right?
Yeah, because I was so passionate about dog training, and then I had to mix this business side. So with the franchising concept, we let all these young entrepreneurs, regardless of their age, right? By young, I mean they're new in the entrepreneur game, right? We let them really focus on their passion of dog training, and we handled most of the back office stuff. Everything I struggled with the first almost 5 to 8 years, we take all that off the table. The marketing, digital ads, the product support, ordering from 30 vendors, the phone answering, the web work. We do all that in-house. And then they actually are focused on the dog training and training employees. And the business model works so much better like that.
Right. Yeah. Because, the thing that we're passionate about is not the business side of the business, right? I mean,
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing that makes you sing or fuels your passion is not all the stuff that you have to do after you've provided the product or service that you provide. It's the front facing, right? I mean, you love people, you like dogs. It's a wonderful, marriage between two things that you really enjoy. And then you get to have fun while you're doing it. Then at the end of the day, you come home and go, oh, geez, now I got all that paperwork to do.
Yeah.
So that's really amazing that you found this wonderful formula that takes care of all the stuff that people probably don't enjoy.
Yeah, I think most people, their passion almost comes from their pain. So my dog training passion came from a dog that I didn't know what to do with. He had all these behavioral issues. 17, 18 years ago, I was ruined. My roommates were moving out because of my dog, and I eventually had to go send it to live with my mom, and he was my little buddy. Yeah. And so my passion as a dog trainer came from that pain. And the same thing with franchising. Hey, I struggled. I worked countless hours. I'm reading SEO blogs and ad blogs at midnight, trying to figure out how to get more leads, trying to figure out how to work a calendar, a phone system, make a website that converts, all this stuff.
Right.
And then so after 8 years, I'm like, well, I think it makes sense that I do this and other people can really give that client all their focus and that dog all their focus.
So do you still do some training at all, or as
I
the,
do.
you know, so yeah, as the CEO of what you do, I mean, you still have to find time that for the thing that you love, right?
Yes, I do. So normally it's mixed with training locations. So like a
Right.
few months ago, I took a lesson. We live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Um, there's some rougher parts around here with some crazy dogs, right? I had a elderly couple that's retired. They had rescued and bottle fed these two pit bull mixes.
Oh
And
dear.
as they grew up, they were so aggressive, dog people aggression. And so I was working with a Utah location, new location, and then I ended up taking those lessons because I'm the boss. They can't stop me. So,
Right.
I train those dogs for a month, like my pet project. So I still take a lot of those hard dogs,
Sure.
because it is my passion.
Okay, so you have to answer this question because as a dog lover, sometimes I think we're actually you have to train the owner, not the dog.
Absolutely. It's a half and half,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So like it's the same with kids. If the kid listens at my house and then his mom, or sorry, like he goes to grandma's house, he
Yeah.
listens to mom. He goes to grandma's house, he
He
knows
doesn't listen.
they're different,
Yeah.
right? My mom's a pushover.
Yeah, that's so true. That's
Yeah.
so because somebody said there's no bad kids, and I'm sure there's no bad dogs, right?
Right.
You just
Right.
have to be able to understand and speak their language in order to help them get along in the world,
Yeah, like
right?
those pit bulls, it's not their fault that they were raised by a random street. They were birthed by a random street dog, and that street dog ran away, left these puppies. So it's like a foster kid. Like, hey, okay,
Yeah,
so they need extra support, they need extra
yeah,
love and nurture. Is
yeah.
that their fault? No, it's not their fault. They
No,
need someone to step in, show them
right.
what to do and how to interact with the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so where do you find, I mean, you've got 24 locations, you
Yes,
said?
man.
Okay, so you got 24 locations. I mean, obviously the sky's the limit. You can continue as long as there's people who want to train dogs and who love what
Yeah.
they do, you can keep expanding wherever you'd like to expand. So I have a technical question though. Are there any issues within moving to different states? Like, could you start a franchise in Canada, or could you start a franchise in another country? Are there any barriers to the locations that people come to you from?
Well, franchising has very specific regulations. So, like, we had interest from Puerto Rico. There's a lot of different regulations. We've had interest from Canada. Currently, we're only in the United States just due to
Right.
legal. Um,
Sure.
Normally, when the corporations are moving to Puerto Rico or Canada, they have an exceptionally large legal budget at that point, and we're just not
Sure.
quite there yet.
Yeah, and that's the truth, right? Barriers to success. I mean, sometimes the barrier, as you mentioned, the barrier to success when you first started out was learning all the back end stuff.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
as you grow and your company gets bigger and larger, there's different barriers to success. I mean, not that you have 50 states. So, I mean, it's not like you don't have enough
Right.
places you can expand to. But if anybody did come to you from another country, you almost have to say, well, I can share part of it, but you can't be part of our big network. You know what I mean? Have you ever thought of just doing education in other countries?
I haven't thought about the education side. There's still plenty of market share here in the United States to focus on.
Yeah.
And then with the support we do as we move to 40 and then 100 locations, our other barrier is call center. We answer all those calls. Those are incoming.
Sure.
So our internal marketing team and call center teams, a product team, those three teams have to grow internally. And we try to stay in our one lane.
Lane,
Just
yes.
like we do pet obedience, we don't do protection, we don't do service dog training, we don't do
Okay.
competition. We have one lane, one niche. Domino's doesn't make tacos, right?
Yeah. And you know what? That's brilliant. That's brilliant advice because sometimes, when we're entrepreneurs, we sprinkle the infield with everything, right? We think, okay,
Right.
I'll try that. Okay, I'll try that. Okay, I'll try that, because you're really not too sure where the revenue is going to come from. So you
Right.
kind of sprinkle the infield trying to do lots of things until one of them gets traction. So that's really great advice because, as you say,
Yeah.
even within your market niche of dog training, there's lots of dog training.
Yes. Back to the original question, right? If you go into 20 different areas, how do you make 20 different linear workflows, front end, back end, every step of the way? It's very
Not
hard,
easy. Yeah.
very hard, right? So
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
better idea is pick that lane and rock it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? And that is amazing advice, because anyone in our viewing and listening audience who has a side hustle that they want to bring to the forefront, or who may be looking for a franchise opportunity, sitting in that cubicle going, oh, geez, I'm really not enjoying this job, but I love dogs.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to say, hey, maybe I need to, give Ryan a call and sort of figure out if there's the right match between their philosophy and your philosophy. So if you had to give words of advice. So one of the things that we do in our platform is we ask folks to give 3 words of advice. And your 3 words were consistency, patience, and passion. So why don't we round up our conversation with you telling us how and why those words are important for you?
Absolutely. Consistency is important because I want to build a brand, right? People that actually have a brand, companies that have a brand and consistency over the long term, they generate more revenue per location. If someone's goal is selling, they sell for a higher number, right? So consistency is important. It's also if you want to build high referrals. If sometimes you're great, sometimes if the pizza's good, sometimes it's bad, nobody orders, right? Consistency when building a brand is of the utmost important. Second is patience. Also, these are all for like when I'm looking at the building the brand, but also I'm training a lot of owners. I'm training a lot of employees, right, at corporate. So as a boss, as a leader, I need to be consistent. They need to know where I sit. Second, I have to be patient with them as they're growing.
Sure.
Right. And the other thing is people want to blow up their brands, right? They want to explode it overnight. You're going to have to be a little patient, consistently produce those good results, and be patient, but put in the work. And then third, the employees need to see your passion. The owners need to see your passion, and your customers, your clients, they need to see the passion. If you are not passionate about what you're doing, you might not should be doing it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That is so true. Now, I know you've shared your 3 words of advice, and you've been an entrepreneur since 2010. So you've weathered the storm, and there's lots of people that we know that, are giving it that pause going, oh, geez, what do I do? Do I keep at it? Do I give up? Do I sell? What do I do? If you had to, just leaving our viewing and listening audience with your thought on the future in terms of business growth and development as a franchise owner, what would you say to folks who are sitting in their office or their cubicle and they're saying, well, do I call Ryan or do I not call Ryan?
Well, if you love dogs and you're looking for an opportunity, the franchising model that we have is very good, and it's very emotionally fulfilling, and it can be very financially rewarding, right? So there's a lot of franchise and business opportunities that can be financially rewarding. What we do is also very, very emotionally rewarding. They can go to tiptopcanine.com, fill out that form, come out for a discovery day, see if they like it. We want you to like us. Great. Yeah, we want to like you. Great. But really, we kind of get hands-on. And if they're looking at any franchise opportunity, that's what I'd recommend is, hey, after a few phone calls, if you feel like you like that team, go get hands-on, see what it's like. So it's not the theory. The same as if they have a business, like my advice would be like, hey, stop thinking about it and writing a million plans. Just do it. Get it going now, right?
Yeah, that's so true. That's excellent advice. I really want to thank you so much, Ryan, for joining me, because you've given us not only a little bit of insight into the franchise business and being a franchise owner, but just being passionate about what it is that you do. It certainly comes across. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Trish, thank you for your time and having me on. You're a rock star.
Thank you so much. If you'd like to connect with our guest, you're going to find Ryan's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, author, artist, and the founder and host for the series. And we invite you to share your business story. Just visit our website at shareyourstories.online and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.